Good morning, everybody. I wish we could be together to talk about sentences. It would be a lot easier. But I just want to leave you with a few ideas to think about today. Because in my belief, the key to becoming a great writer and speaker and communicator in English is to be able to write a sentence. Sentences are the first stage in paragraphs, essays, books, and communicating well. A sentence is a whole idea. What is a sentence? There's so many kinds of sentences, but they all have one thing in common. They have to have a subject, which is a noun. A subject is a doer. A subject is a subject. That's what the sentence is about. A sentence must have a subject and a predicate. The predicate really tells us what the subject is doing. Subject by itself is not a sentence. So if we look at something like the dog is a noun. The dog is a subject. By itself, the dog is not a sentence because the dog's not doing anything. It's not completing an action. It's not having a thought. So what do we need to do? Let's look at that. Walks down the street. Walks down the street. That's not a sentence. It could be the predicate of a sentence. Let's look at it. The word walks. That's an action. You know what the word walks means. Down the street tells us where the action takes place. It's a prepositional phrase. You know about those. Walks down the street. It's not a sentence. It tells us about an action, and it tells us where that action takes place. But it doesn't tell us who's doing the action. So let's take a look here. The dog walks down the street. We have a sentence. What's the subject? The dog. And finally, that subject is doing something. The dog walks down the street, period. That is a full sentence, a full, complete thought. You don't need to know who's walking down the street because you know it's the dog. And you know what the dog's doing. The dog is walking. That's an action. That's a verb. The dog walks down the street. Down the street tells us where with that prepositional phrase. Isn't that great? A sentence is a complete idea. A sentence is a complete idea. A sentence has a subject that does something or feels something. That's the predicate. Oops. Just 1 second. A sentence shouldn't be too long, especially when you're starting out. So say, the dog walks down the street. Don't say the dog walks down the street to go and visit the other dog who lives 2 houses down in the big yellow house. That's too much information at the beginning. Make a nice, perfect sentence for me. Write simple sentences that have one idea. New idea, new sentence. You can get fancy later. You can write me perfect sentences later. Using conjunctions to make fancy sentences. That will be our next lesson. Thank you.